There's a lot of negative discussion surrounding Patrick Ta and his new range of blush transition products. Negative discussion aside, I want to look at the transition powders for what they actually are and see how they look on fair skin. And I'm curious to see if these can be a pale girl's standalone blush option. I have 2 shades of the transition blush powders. I have Shy It First, and I also have Between Us. And as you can see, I haven't opened them, so you're gonna see my first impressions and my reactions. So let's play around with them for science. All right, so let's start unboxing Shy It First, which is our pink shade. So I just got these in the mail yesterday. So I'm super excited to see what they actually look like. So that's the packaging. Pretty standard for Patrick Ta's products. So let's do a reveal. And before I dip my finger in that, I do want to open up the other box, our lilac shade. So again, we have Shy It First and Between Us. I'm actually going to swatch this on my hand before I put them on my face because I am curious to see what the powder is like. So there's the powder on my finger right there. And then I'm just going to swatch it on my hand. So I don't know if you can see. And then let's go into the darker shade, and then I'll swatch it right beside the lighter color. I'm gonna try to pick up some more and build it up here. Now that we have swatched the pink shades on my hand, I want to go ahead and swatch the lilac shades. Okay, so we are going into the lighter of the lilac shade, and let's put it here. And this one is definitely showing up a lot more, like right there. Let's go into that darker shade, and I'm just gonna quickly swatch it on my hand here. And that definitely shows up a lot more than the other shades. So the colors are really pretty. I'm very curious to see how they look on my face. So if you haven't noticed, I look a little crazy. So I've basically done all of my makeup except for the mid portion of my face. I have a foundation and concealer on, but I haven't set it down with any powder yet because I wanted to see if these formulas, especially the lighter shades, could be used as a setting powder under the eyes. So let's talk about these. These are the Patrick Ta Major Headline Transition Blurring Under Eye Blush Duos. That is a mouthful. And they retail for $42 Canadian each. So they are, and I have my notes here, sheer, softly blurring powders with a hint of tint to create a seamless transition of color from the cheeks to the under eyes. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I like to use 2 blushes, and this blush right here, the same blush in yogurt pink, is what I like to use to connect my blush to my under eyes. That's what it looks like. You can see how much I've used it with the amount of pan that's showing through. Instead, I'm going to use these to see if I like these better than this, and to see if I can also use these as a standalone blush, because as a pale girly, it is so hard to find a pale blush that doesn't have such a high pigment load, because sometimes with blushes that have a high pigment load, things can get crazy really fast, and I would rather spend my time building up a color than trying to correct it. So before I put these on, I do want to go over Patrick Ta's method with you just quickly. So he says to put on concealer under the eyes right here, then his blush transitioning brightening blush, which is like a color corrector, to add it right next to the concealer, and then to use his powder blush. So I have just enough here, so this is what I'll be using today, because I feel like this blush duo will complement these colors. And then use the transition blush powders just along the eye after blending everything out. And then to add the cream on top for a dewy finish. That's crazy. That's a lot of steps to get a blush look. So what I'll be doing is I'll be using the transition blushes as setting powder underneath the eyes, and I'll be using one color on one side and the other on the other. And then I will go in with the powder blush on both cheeks, and then I will use the darker color to transition the blush to the under eye. So hopefully it'll look good, maybe? But in any case, let's get started. I have 2 clean powder puffs. So I'm gonna go in with this lighter shade right here, and I'm going to set my under eyes with it. So that's how much powder I've picked up, and I'm also just going to rub this on the palm of my hand just to get the powder evenly distributed on the puff. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna add the lighter shade to my under eye. So I just have a little bit on this portion of my face. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I am seeing a very subtle shade of pink appearing. Okay, so now that I have most of that lighter pink shade under my eye, I'm going to set the bottom portion of my cheek with my regular setting powder, the Huda Beauty Easy Bake Setting Powder in Pound Cake. Okay, so that is the under eye set with the lighter color of the Transition Blush Duo. And now I'm going to go in with the blush just enough, but only the powder portion. I'm just going to pick up a little bit on my brush. Okay, so that's the blush applied. I think I went a little heavy-handed, but we're gonna just press on through. So now I'm going to take this darker color with a brush. And this is a different brush that I've cleaned. I'm going to pick up a bit of that powder. Tap off the excess. And I'm going to use this powder right here where there's a bit of a disconnect between the blush and the lighter shade of the Transition Duo. And that's what it looks like. I'm gonna try to use that darker shade higher up on the temples just to see if there is a bit of a color difference. Yes, there is, and it's very subtle, but it is doing that transition work. I'm also going to take the brush and blend a portion of the powders into my eyeshadow. Okay, so that is shy at first with just enough. Does it look transitioned? With this cheek done, let's move on to the lilac shade between us on this side right here. And I'm still gonna use the same blush. Again, I'm just gonna use the powder portion of the blush. Okay, so I'm gonna take this shade right here and gather some on my powder puff. Just going to rub that in the palm of my hand. And I'm going to set the inner corner and under eye. And that's what it looks like. Now that's the lighter shade of the Lilac Duo. So I'm thinking if you're ultra fair to fair, you can get away with Between Us as a blush shade if you're looking for like a very light purpley toned blush, because I just used the lighter shade and I can definitely see a color difference. So that just means that the darker shade of the two is going to have a lot more pigment. But in any case, let's go ahead and add the blush. This is the side with just enough. And with a clean brush, I'm gonna go into that darker shade right here. So that's how much powder I have on the brush. And I'm going to transition the blush in this area of my cheek. That is the side with the lilac shade between us, with the powder portion of the blush in just enough. Okay, so now that I have both the blush transitions on, I'm going to balance out my face. I'm just looking for my bronzer brush. So I'm going to add a bit of bronzer to my cheeks just to balance out the blushed look. And I'm gonna go in with my most favorite bronzer, which is the same single blusher in Cloudy Brown. Okay, so now that the bronzer has been added, there is one portion of my face left to go, which is the bridge of my nose. And I want to see if Shy at First can be used as a standalone color. So I'm gonna go in with my clean brush and I'm gonna go between the two colors. Let's see, let's put this on my nose to see if it's even noticeable. Can you guys tell? I feel like the bridge of my nose is like a little less stark white, and the blush just looks a little bit more cohesive. So I'm gonna add a bit of highlighter to my cheeks. And then I'm gonna add some eyeshadow to the lower lash line. I'm gonna use that color right here. Okay, so there's the eyeshadow done. And the last and final step will be mascara on the lower lashes. So I'm just gonna do that off camera quickly and then I'll be right back. All right, so here is the finished look. I have a Shy at First on this side. And I have Between Us on this side. So now I'm just taking a closer look at both cheeks. The powders are beautiful and the colors are really nice. I do like them quite a bit. I'm really happy with the color choices that I've made. The application was really easy and the packaging is really nice too. You get a mirror and you get two powders. I just love how he made it easy and that there's two shades to choose from. I like that I can use one or the other or mix both of them together. I also like how this lilac shade Between Us can also be used as a standalone blush for fair skin girlies. And I actually love that about this specific shade. Now, the only thing that I don't love is the price. So each of these blush transition duos are $42 each, which is quite pricey. So you can definitely achieve this look without using any Patrick Ta products. There you have it. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. I hope this deep dive into Patrick Ta's transition blush powder duos provided you with a bit of insight. I'm always here to give you honest opinions, real unfiltered results, and a little bit of glam along the way. So thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.
Yeah, intuition, just wanna follow intuition. All my senses tell me I know what you've been thinking. I've been feeling, what if we got up, left this party? Cause I can see you're probably gonna be scrolling feeds all night long.